The headlines say recession. Markets drop, jobs vanish, fear spreads. But sometimes it's more than that. Sometimes the world doesn't just slow down, it falls apart. Factories silent, banks shuttered, families broken. The difference between a recession and a depression isn't just economic, it's emotional, it's human. Tonight we uncover what separates a stumble from a collapse. Before we dive into this chapter, take a moment to like and subscribe, and join those who remember.
The first cracks.
It often begins quietly. A graph dips. A report warns. Economists debate whether it's temporary or the start of something worse. A recession is part of the natural rhythm of capitalism, a downturn after growth. It happens when spending slows, businesses pull back, and confidence fades. But when that cycle deepens, when jobs evaporate, trade freezes, and hope drains from the public, it crosses into something else. In the early stages, signals flicker. The stock market trembles, interest rates climb. For families, the change feels small at first, a late payment here, a canceled order there. But in the corridors of power, warnings grow louder. The Federal Reserve, the Treasury, world markets, all watching the same curve sink lower. In a recession, unemployment rises moderately, banks tighten credit. People hold on, waiting for the rebound. History shows that most recessions end within months. They hurt, but they heal. Yet sometimes they don't. When the slowdown becomes self-feeding, when lost jobs mean lost spending means lost business, the downward spiral begins. That's when the line between recession and depression starts to blur. It's not defined by emotion, though emotion drives it. It's defined by depth, by scale, by time. Recessions are seasons, depressions are eras.
The anatomy of a downturn.
Recessions have anatomy, a chain reaction of human choices. It begins with shock. Maybe inflation surges, maybe banks overlend, maybe war disrupts supply. Then confidence slips. Consumers spend less. Businesses cut production. Layoffs start. Every economic collapse is both mathematical and emotional. Fear multiplies faster than numbers fall. In a recession, GDP shrinks for 2 consecutive quarters. Economists track the metrics. Politicians debate the blame. But beyond the jargon lies something simpler. People stop trusting tomorrow. To slow inflation, central banks raise rates, making credit expensive. That cools the economy, but also burns small businesses first. Factories close, restaurants empty, families cut back on vacations, cars, even groceries. It's a feedback loop. Fear feeds contraction, contraction feeds fear. History's recessions, 1990, 2001, 2008, show the same rhythm. Fall, panic, stabilize, recover. Each one feels like the end, until recovery reminds us how resilient systems can be. But depressions, they are something else entirely. A rupture, not a cycle. Where recessions bruise confidence, depressions rewrite destiny.
When a recession becomes a depression.
There's no single switch that turns a recession into a depression. It's a slow collapse of pillars meant to hold everything up. When the Great Depression hit in 1929, no one called it that, not yet. It began as a crash, a panic, then a spiral. Banks failed, Credit disappeared. By 1933, 1 in 4 Americans was unemployed. The difference was scale. GDP didn't just shrink, it cratered. World trade fell by 2/3. Prices dropped, but no one could afford them anyway. A depression is measured in years, not quarters, and its shadow stretches across generations. People sold farms, moved into cities, waited in soup lines. Hope was rationed alongside bread. The national psyche changed. Americans learned fear could outlast prosperity. Today, economists debate whether we could see another depression. Modern safeguards, deposit insurance, stimulus policy, global cooperation stand as guardrails. But history whispers, no system is unbreakable.
The human toll.
Numbers can't show what despair feels like. Behind every statistic lies a story. In every downturn, the first casualties are workers on the edge. Single parents, factory laborers, small entrepreneurs. During the Great Depression, children quit school to work. Families shared homes. Communities formed barter networks because cash meant nothing. Modern recessions bring subtler pain, anxiety, lost savings, delayed dreams. Mortgage foreclosures, evictions, graduates without jobs. Economists call it demand destruction. Psychologists call it trauma. The hardest hit aren't just the poor, it's anyone who trusted stability. Middle-class families watch decades of savings evaporate in weeks. Dreams of retirement turn to survival plans. And yet, even here, resilience blooms. Neighborhood kitchens, mutual aid, innovation born of necessity. Recessions test systems. Depressions test souls.
Policy and power.
When economies falter, leaders face a cruel paradox. Act fast or risk collapse. During recessions, governments spend more to stimulate demand. During depressions, they rebuild the very structure of the economy. Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal did both, putting millions to work, regulating banks, and restoring faith in currency. It wasn't just policy, it was therapy for a nation's psyche. Modern responses, from 2008's TARP bailouts to 2020's pandemic relief, echo that logic. Flood the system with hope and liquidity before despair hardens. But every action has cost. Too much stimulus can fuel inflation. Too little can deepen misery. Leaders walk a line between courage and catastrophe. The question is timeless. How much government is enough to save capitalism from itself?
The modern era of fear.
The 21st century brought new kinds of recession, faster, global, digital. The 2008 crisis began with mortgages spread through derivatives and crashed the world in months. Within a year, 30 million jobs were gone. Airlines, car makers, even governments teetered. And then came 2020, an invisible virus freezing global trade overnight. For the first time, humanity faced a planned recession. Economies shut down to save lives. Streets empty, airports still, office towers dark. Technology softened the blow, remote work, digital trade, but could not erase fear. Governments printed trillions to keep citizens afloat. Inflation soon followed. The old lessons returned. Money can heal wounds, but not without scars. The modern age proved that recessions no longer respect borders. They travel as fast as code.
Resilience and renewal.
Every downturn ends. Not because the math improves, but because people refuse to surrender. After every recession, innovation rises from the ashes. After every depression, societies reinvent themselves. The 1930s birthed social safety nets. The 1970s redefined globalization. The 2008 crisis spawned fintech and tighter oversight. The pandemic accelerated digital revolutions. History shows that recovery is not a return, it's a reinvention. Economies heal by changing shape. But memory fades. Each new generation forgets how close collapse once felt. And so the cycle begins again. Fear, fall, recovery, relief. Recession teaches humility. Depression teaches endurance. Both remind us that progress without empathy is hollow. In the end, numbers rebound, but what endures is human resilience. The flag rises, the lights return, the market ticks up again. And somewhere, another economist whispers, "Let's hope it's just a recession."